Modern has a problem. What's the problem with Modern, you ask? The decks are really fun to play. And to that statement, I have to agree. But there is still a problem here. The problem with Modern is that most decks operate like two ships passing in the night. They're just playing their game, not even really aware that the other deck even exists. One deck is trying to burn you out as fast as possible, while you're sitting there trying to make an infinite combo to kill them in one turn. Or, for example, one guy's trying to bash your face in, and you're sitting there and trying to land an ensnaring bridge, at which point the game just ends. Now, is that really people's definition of fun? Now, I might just be crazy, but opponents in Magic I thought were supposed to be more than just match timers. They don't just sit there and tell you, well, your time is up, I guess you lost. In Magic, your opponent is sitting across from you, an intelligent adversary, and you can both use your wits in order to win the game. But that is not really the case in Modern. What I'm trying to say is that Modern needs more interaction. Now, what are the two colors that are the most interactive in Magic? Black for killing things, and blue for stopping spells from happening. Now, black in Modern is still killing things just fine, but blue has a serious problem. Blue is not doing its signature thing, which is countering spells and solving problems. Now let's take a look at one of the most commonly played counterspells in Modern. It literally says, right on the card, that it does not solve problems. Why is that a big deal? The first problem is that it takes intelligence out of the game. People can generally just play the card that they want to, and if it gets remanded, no big deal, I'll play it next turn. Remand is just a gentleman's agreement to continue the game for one more turn. And that really takes the intelligence out of the question of, should I cast this spell? Because the answer is generally yes. The second problem is that this card is a symptom of the problems of Modern and not a solution. Remand always buys another turn and cycles a card. And why would you want to do that? The answer is that Remand is pretty much just used to get another turn and draw a card so that you can find a combo. It's not really a control card, it's just a combo finding and death staving offing card. Also, Mana Leak is not a card, and the rest of the counter spells in Modern are extremely conditional. So I think it's fair to say that counter spells in Modern are poop. This makes blue as a color in Modern simply what you use to find your combos. Can't find it? Great, we have Serum Visions for that. Can't find it and a little bit threatened? Well, we have Remand for that problem. Don't worry, we'll get to your combo eventually. What I'm trying to say is that blue is not really blue in Modern. It's really a 4-color format. So how do we fix this problem? Well, like many problems, it can partially be answered by the community, which is to simply stop complaining about counterspells. This is really a thing that I find newer players tend to do, but also happens with really enfranchised players, and I think it's important to remember that counterspells are extremely fair. You're trading a card for their card, and you don't get your thing now, but, we're also not spoiled children, so we can wait on it, and counterspells are an extremely interesting interaction between the two players that can be played around. It's really an intelligence building part of the game. But which counterspells would make Modern a healthy format? I think there's really two that are suited for the job. Now, the first one is Daze, and I know that you're saying, hold on, free counterspells? You don't use nuclear weapons to kill mice. It's just completely unnecessary, right? Well, there are two big differences between Legacy and Modern. The first one is that Legacy is even more low to the ground than Modern. And so when you stop an early play, that can be a bigger deal daising in early play than it is in Modern. So it's just not going to be as impactful for whatever spell it counters. Secondly, there's a huge difference between land bases in Modern and in Legacy. In Legacy, you bounce your Volcanic Island to pay for your days. The next turn you play your Volcanic Island, no big deal. In Modern, not so much. When you bounce a Steam Vents, that is a big deal, because when it comes back down, it's either coming down tapped, or you're taking an additional 2 life in order to have it untapped like it would be in Legacy. So Daze is strictly weaker in Modern. For decks that want to play Daze in just bound, literally just a basic island, then those decks are giving up all the multicolor craziness that Modern decks have right now. So they are still giving up power to play Daze. So yes, I think that Daze would be a healthy card. The next spell that I'd like to see introduced, maybe not in parallel, just try one at a time, but is Counterspell. And there's multiple reasons why this is a very fair Magic card. The first reason is that it is blue-blue. So you can't just splash for this thing super easy and be playing a bunch of other colors and be playing Daze, for example. So I think that that helps tone it down just a tiny bit, just that simple blue-blue in the upper right. The next argument for Counterspell is that it costs 2 mana to play. And in Modern, you're generally countering spells that cost 2 or 3 mana. Or there are spells that technically cost more than 2 or 3 mana, but you're paying for them in some alternate way that makes it so you're really only tapping 2 or 3 lands. So when a counterspell occurs in Modern, it's not going to completely blow out the opponent and be, super efficient. It's going to be a fair exchange. With one of these 2 cards in the format, or heck, even both, I think that the format would become far more stable. That wildly unfair play on turn 2 now has to worry about a Daze. It might become a turn 3 play. Counterspell can replace Remand and make blue less of a combo finding color and more of an actual counterspell color. It is widely recognized that strong counter magic is the glue that holds Legacy together as a format worth playing. Would that be so bad for Modern?